Welcome to another edition of the 2014 NAIA Weekly Football Update. I'm your host, Alan Grossbach, alongside Chad Waller, coming to you from the NAIA headquarters in downtown Kansas City, Missouri.
Today we'll take a look at the top games of the week as well as highlight some key matchups to look forward to this weekend in NAIA football.
We kick off this week's show with a look back at 2014's first NAIA football game of the week featuring number 2 Carroll and number 22 Southern Oregon. And we throw it over to ABC affiliate KDRV for a quick recap.
22nd ranked Southern Oregon hosting 2nd ranked Carroll College. Games at Ashland High while Raider Stadium's undergoing renovation. Second quarter 10-7 SOU, but a big gain up the middle by Carroll's Dustin Rinker. Somehow stays on his feet, 37 yards. They would later score on the drive to make it 14-10. Still in the second, you think of the Raiders' big plays coming through the air, but here they get it done on the ground. Melvin Mason, 40 yards to the house, and SOU retakes the lead 17-14. Mason was great, but you know Austin Dodge is going to go deep at some point. Play action, and that works great. Plenty of time. It is Dylan Young on the other end, a 47-yard strike from number 3, and a 10-point Raider lead. Still in the first half, a Carroll touchdown makes it 24-21 Raiders. Under 20 seconds to go, Mac Roche hits Anthony Clark in the end zone, and the Saints take a 28-24 lead into halftime. But Melvin Mason was on a mission. 202 yards, 3 scores for the sophomore, including this one. 35-31 Saints, under a minute to go in the third quarter. This time through the air, Victor Dean, the D1 transfer with his first catch in a Raider uniform. That gives the lead back to SOU. Last chance for Carroll, 3 minutes to go. First down on the Raiders' 29. But in the biggest moment, it's the defense that makes the big play. David Wider with the sack fumble. Raiders recover. It was Wider's first tackle in a Raider uniform. Wider, Dean, the unlikely heroes, they help SOU to a statement win, 38-35, the final.
Now this is a huge win for Southern Oregon as it puts the Raiders in the early season driver's seat in the Frontier Conference race. However, Southern Oregon still has a tough schedule as they play number 9 Rocky Mountain and Carroll one more time this year, and Eastern Oregon twice on the schedule. Not an easy road.
Well, and how about Southern Oregon's running back Melvin Mason? We spent a lot of time talking about Austin Dodge and that prolific pass offense, and deservingly so, but he tallied 202 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns against a run defense like Carroll's. That's pretty impressive, and it even garnered him National Offensive Player of the Week honors. Very deserving.
Yes, absolutely. Now let's turn our attention to another top 25 battle as number 25 Cumberland out of Tennessee knocked off number 4 Cumberland's 34-27. This victory is not only a marquee win for the Bulldogs, but it's also their first win against the Patriots since 2002.
Offensively for the Bulldogs, quarterbacks Reed Gerchak and Brock Lovelace combined to throw for 213 yards and a touchdown, while also running for 54 yards and a score. Michael Green was the top receiver for Cumberland with 3 catches for 69 yards, including a 61-yard touchdown reception late in the fourth quarter.
Now Cumberland took advantage of 4 turnovers, which they converted into 17 points on the defensive side. Most notably was Anthony Knight's 74-yard interception return for a score. The pick 6 came early in the fourth quarter to give Cumberland a 27-20 lead.
You know, shifting gears, and one of the biggest surprises of the weekend was unranked Reinhardt knocking off number 18 Lindsey Wilson 52-48. And I say a surprise, and that's not because the Eagles aren't a solid program, but it's because it looked as if Lindsey Wilson was going to run away with the game.
Now you're exactly right, Alan. The Blue Raiders opened the game on fire offensively with 20 straight points in just over 10 minutes. However, Reinhardt responded with a run of their own, scoring 24 straight points, capped by a 6-yard touchdown run by L.J. Stegall. That touchdown was set up by a Lindsey Wilson fumble, which was one of 5 turnovers on the day by the Blue Raiders.
You know, and the game was back and forth from that point forward, and there were a lot of individual performances that were worth note in the contest. For Reinhardt, Stegall finished the contest with 18 carries for 146 yards and 3 scores, while quarterbacks Jonathan Shamley and Ryan Thompson were combined 18 for 27 for 291 yards and 3 touchdowns. For Lindsey Wilson, quarterback Braden Cressup was 30 for 42 for 490 yards and 5 touchdowns, while wide receivers Cortez Barber and Chaz Barnes combined for over 260 yards receiving.
Wow, quite the offensive firepower on both sides of the ball in that game. Now this is a good statement victory for Reinhardt team that is looking to jump into the top 25 poll when the polls come out next Monday. So we'll take a look, and I assume that they're going to be in the poll next week.
Agreed. Lastly, history was made Saturday night as Warner, Florida defeated Weber International 14-10 in the first ever Sun Conference game between the two rivals. There were more than 1,300 fans in attendance, and the game took almost 6 hours because of weather conditions.
Now, as you mentioned a couple weeks earlier, Alan, we're excited to now have a home for our Florida football schools in the Sun Conference.
Well, and this is also an exciting win for Warner. Their program in their second year of existence. Last year, they only won 1 game, so to pick up a victory in just week 2 is great for them.
Yeah, and it's great for the NAIA football scene to have schools in Florida like you mentioned.
Agreed. In total, 20 top 25 teams were in action last weekend, and here's a look at how those games shook out. Now let's turn our attention to the upcoming week, where we had 4 top 25 matchups that were featured in the NAIA Football Game of the Week Facebook fan vote. And those contests were number 15 Sterling at number 5 Baker, number 8 Tabor at number 7 Missouri Valley, number 14 Ottawa at number 11 Benedictine, and number 19 Friends at number 24 Peru State.
Now it was a tight race in that voting this week, which is a great thing, but only 1 game could prevail. And this week's NAIA Football Game of the Week is number 19 Friends at number 24 Peru State. And we want to again thank all the fans that voted this week on Facebook to make this game possible.
Well, you know, Chad, there's not a ton of recent history between these two sides, as they've only met once since 2004, and that was a 38-13 win by the Falcons in 2010.
Now this contest this weekend is one of 10 games that is part of the second and final year of the KCAC Heart of America Athletic Conference Football Series. And pairings for this series are based on the conference rank from the previous year, pitting 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, so on and so forth. Now these 2 teams finished 4th in their respective league standings last year after tiebreakers were taken into account.
Friends enters the weekend fresh off a dominant performance against Doane in their season opener on September 6th. The Falcons forced 5 Tiger turnovers, which they converted to 20 points en route to the 33-7 win. Quarterback Aaron Hansen had a big game for Friends, throwing for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns, while wide receiver Chris Allen was his favorite target with 4 catches for 127 yards, including a 78-yard touchdown pass that occurred in the second quarter. Linebacker Josh Lewis also led the defense with 9 tackles, including 1.5 tackles for loss and a fumble recovery for the Falcons.
Now Peru State is hoping to right the ship against the Falcons, as the Bobcats are coming off a surprising 28-14 loss against unranked Midland last Saturday. The game was tied at 7 until the fourth quarter, when the Warriors tallied 21 straight points. Now 3 different Bobcats on the offensive side of the ball carried the ball at least 6 times in the game, led by Aaron Smith's 19 carries for 52 yards that included 2 scores. Quarterback Bo Shepard for Peru State completed 11 of 28 passes for 109 yards in the loss.
We're always interested to hear from the fans of NAIA football, and we ask you to get involved with the voting for the Football Game of the Week. Each week we will post our top games to Facebook, and this typically happens Monday evening by 5 p.m. Central Time. So be sure to pick your favorite game by Tuesday at 10 a.m. and we'll have it highlighted on the show.
Now, in addition to the voting process, we ask you to post any NAIA football-related questions to our Facebook page at Play NAIA, and we'll pick a few of those questions to discuss the following week on the show.
Well, that concludes this week's episode. I'm Alan Grossbach.
And I'm Chad Waller.
We'll see you next week.